Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining in for this live session of Q&A. And my name is Vache from recordingstudio9.com, the YouTube channel, as well as the website, as well as my studio. So welcome for the year 2021. This is the first live stream that's coming to
hello,
you,
everybody.
January.
Thanks for joining in
for this live session of Q&A.
Anyway,
my name is Vache.
if you have just joined in, thanks for joining in.
And I hope you are going to be getting lots of information. This is the Q&A session, so I am hoping that there's going to be lots of questions and I'm going to be able to answer. I guess that's the whole idea. So ask me a question that I can answer. Anything relates to audio, music production, some gear. I don't have lots of gear, but I do have quite a lot. So I hope that people that join in or just say hi. You're most welcome to just say hi. If you don't have any questions to ask me. So yeah, this is going to be about short, anywhere between as short as half an hour, and it could, depending on number of questions that I get and how we'll answer those questions, it might stretch all the way to no more than an hour. So I'm hoping that this will be something that I'll do once a week, pretty much the same time every week. So depending which part of the world you're in, make that a note. So this is the time that I'm hoping that I'll be able to do every week, same time on the same bat channel. So put your questions right there and they will appear and I will read them and say hello to you as well. And hopefully if you have a question, I will answer. And we have Saim Abrar says, hi. Hello, Saim. I hope I spelled it correctly. Any useful tips on vocal recordings? Well, that's a very general question. You need to be a little bit more specific of the question. I mean, the most common would be, make sure you've got the right choice of microphone for whatever you're trying to record. Make sure you've got the right levels. I don't know. If you've got something a bit more specific, then I can try to answer that. But that's very general question. We also have Kalamanch. Hello. Says, hi, I'm all from India. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, too, and welcome from India. In case you didn't know, I'm located in Sydney, Australia. So depending on what time of the day in the world you're in, so that could be the difference. So thanks for joining. If it was really early in the morning for you, so good morning. If it's somewhere around lunchtime, hope you're enjoying your lunch. And if it's something in the afternoon or in the evening, good evening to you as well. And thanks for giving some of your time to join in to this live stream. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to answer some audio-related questions. We also have Danielle. Thank you, and have a nice 2021. I hope so too. I know 2020 has been really, really sort of questionable for majority of the people. So yeah, I hope 2021 is looking more brighter for everybody in this world. We really need that brightness. Okay, Saim has a question, I believe. Let me just see. Have Blue Yeti Mic Pro with Studio Live RML16 AI digital mixer. Yep. Yep. Microphone is picking up much room noise with gate room sound when noise gates open for vocals. Room doesn't have much noise. Yeah, it's the Blue Yeti Mic Pro. I'm not sure which one it is. It's not the USB one, is it? Because I believe the Blue Yetis are USB. If it's an XLR mic, I assume then it would be most likely a condenser microphone, and that's the one that you need to apply 48 volts. If that's the case, and if you are doing sort of voiceover work or even singing, if your room is not treated, it's got lots of noise and echo, then your best option would be is to use microphones like this one here. Like this one here, which is a dynamic microphone, which is less susceptible to noise because it only has small area to pick up the sound, and noise away from the microphone is not picked up as much, where condenser microphones are much more sensitive. So give that a try. This microphone here that you can hear right now is the Behringer Xm 2500, and it costs about $25 or $30 Australian. So that's about like $20 US. And that works really well. And this is what I use for all my YouTube commentary. And it's nice and clean, clear, with a little bit of EQ on there. It clears up. And if you've got enough distance from it, then it will really work well, as you can hear. So try something like that, so that you don't get the picking up a noise. But if the microphone is noisy, then that's a different issue. I don't have much personal experience with the Blue Yeti Mic Pro, so you could chase that out. It's XLR double wires, so yeah, it's balanced microphone. Sorry, I just read through the last bit right there. Okay. So hopefully that will help you out. Other than that, instead of using gates, you can also use expander. So in the RML16 AI digital mixer, Studio Live, there is the fat channel. I'm sure it's got the fat channel built in. So instead of using gate, use expander. So that way it gently reduces the volume up and down, so you don't hear that noise coming in and out and in and out. And if you've got not much choice, then watch my latest video that I just put out just this morning, probably about exactly 12 hours ago. Watch that one, and maybe you can use some audio editing to clean up the background noise or even the noise from the microphone. Okay, I bought Rode and Kalamancha says, I've got both Rode NT1A and Shure SM58. How can I record for percussion instruments? Please help. Well, there are a lot of videos out there to show you how you can use for percussion. But for percussion, I would highly recommend the SM58 rather than the NT1A, only because percussions have really fast transient, and the Rode NT1A will most likely capture all of those, and you will have very sharp peaks in your audio, where the SM58, being dynamic, has a slower response, and it will make it much easier to manage those fast transients on percussions. I've recorded percussions here, like congos, as well as bongos, and SM58 is the best choice for them. That's what I use. I have two of those SM58s, and they're the best choice for it. They come out really clear, and try to move them around, making sure there are, let's say, if that's the sort of the congo or the percussion bit, and you will have the microphone sort of, let me see if I can, if that makes sense. With that microphone, let's assume that SM58, it's sort of like that. So it's pointing, it's right on the edge and pointing to the center, because the center is where all the low frequency is, and all the high transients are at the edges of the percussion instrument. So that's what you could do, and experiment with the movements and see what you can get. I hope that helps you out. Definitely SM58. Saim Akbar says, I have Shure SM58, but the Blue Yeti vocals are superb. However, picking up background noise. Yeah, that's the choice, because SM58 is as I talk about percussion, it is much duller. Obviously, with your experience, you think the Blue Yeti is much brighter. superb. But if it's picking up background noise, the only other choice is to either insulate the room, put some room acoustics, or try to minimize the place. Just hang some maybe wall carpets or dunas or anything else around to stop that reverberation noise in the background. And if you are in a busy street and you've got background noise, I'm afraid there's not much you can do. As I said, you can watch the video I posted this morning, see if that helps you out. Danielle says, do you think USB audio interfaces are right for pro recording? I want to change my old interface and get a Presonus 1824. What do you think about this gear? Well, it all depends what you are changing from. If it's Firewire, then I guess, changing it to USB, only because Firewire is pretty much died out, even though personally, I believe they're more superior than USB. But, USB-C these days, third generation, they're much faster, obviously much, much better. And if you're thinking of getting the Presonus 1824C, then you can't go wrong. I do have the old 1824, which is a USB 2 device, and that is fantastic. And I have done a review about it. Just search my channel, and I think 3 or 4 part review of that interface. You can't go wrong with that. It's definitely upgrade. Again, it all depends what you are doing. Same Abra says, is it okay to use fat channel on digital mixer as well as DAW for vocal tracks? Yes, but it all depends how you want to use the fat channel. Now, in your digital mixer, Studio Live mixer, you can have the fat channel before or after it is sent to your DAW. So you can use your fat channel before it sends out to your DAW. So post fat channel. That way, if you use the gate, then the gate will activate and the signal will go into DAW after the fat channel. Because a lot of the time, by default, it's before. The signal is sent before. So you've got the input, and then you've got the gain, and then it sends out to your DAW, and then the fat channel that goes out to your mixer and to the outputs and the headphone. But there is a setting in the Studio Live where you can change it so that instead of going after the gain to your DAW, it goes after the fat channel. So that way you can apply to all the fat channel settings before it goes to a DAW. That way in your DAW, you don't have to do much because it's already done it. Of course, you got to remember that that's printed that way. Once you've done it, you cannot change it. So my recommendation would be is to do it pre-fat channel and use the fat channel. If you are using Studio One, or if you got gate in your DAW, you can use the gate. Again, you can follow my example, a great one which I did this morning to clean up noisy microphones. Kalaman says, also during recording, how can I avoid clipping by using plugins only? Now, it depends where the clipping is coming from. If you are recording through an audio interface or a mixer interface, you got to make sure that your signal is well below clipping before it reaches into your DAW. Because if it is already in your DAW and it's already clipped, because you turn the gain too high on your mixer or on your interface, it's too late. Nothing you can do. Make sure it's low at the input stage of recording. In these days, if you set your audio interface to 24 bits, that gives you nearly 126 dB of headroom. So it's so wide. So even if you record low, you're not going to get much noise because that's clean enough. And when in your DAW, you increase your recorded audio clip's gain, it's not going to add any noise. It's just whatever the noise, if there is any, it's going to increase that, but it's not going to add any. So make sure that you don't record too high. Watch your levels. As I always mention, a rule of thumb is to have anywhere between -20 to -12 dB as it's coming in, and then then it's free of any noise, as well as any clippings. So that's once you've clipped coming in, recorded, clipped already. There are programs like Isotope RX7 that it will declip, but really just you don't have to record too loud. Just record low and it'd be fine. EQ vocals on digital mixer is a good idea. Personally, I don't EQ anything on the way in. The only thing that I do when I'm recording, because of my setup, I have a mixer and audio interface, is I do high pass filter. So that way any noise below about 80 hertz for vocals is not required. We'll get rid of that. And it normally goes through my preamp, which has a compressor, and I just gently compress. That gives nice balance coming in. It helps later on during the editing, but I never EQ, because you can EQ to your heart's content in the DAW, but once you EQ the way in, it doesn't sound right. It's much harder to fix it later on. So make sure you don't EQ. I personally, especially digital, because if it's digital in your mixer already, that means you can digitally edit it and EQ it in your DAW. There are a lot of times if I have an analog EQ, like my preamp that I use for my microphone recordings has a EQ as well. And if I feel that I need to EQ something because of the vocalist is too sibilant or the vocalist is too deep, and I might EQ it, but that's analog way in, and that's sort of trying to fix because there's no other way to fix because of the choice of the microphone we've got and the choice of the vocal, and trying to match it. And if there's no other choice, I'll EQ it. Otherwise, I won't EQ it. Kalamanch says, what compressor ratio for mixing percussions? Well, with percussions, if you are, I guess for a plug-in, because I would probably have high attack, fast attack, and reasonably fast release as well. So set your setting attack as fast as you can, anywhere between 1 millisecond to 10 milliseconds. Adjust that to see how you can capture all of the fast transients. Again, fast release as well. Otherwise, you're going to squash it too much, and it's not going to sound punchy, or it's not going to sound snappy. Especially if you are using bongos or any other congos or any other percussions. The ratio, it could be anywhere between 4 to 7 to 1 ratio, and gain reduction could be -3 to -6 dB at max, because you don't want to squash it too much. So I hope that will help you out with the percussions. Okay, Saim says, can you please elaborate gates, expanders, high pass filters, low pass filters, and thresholds on mixer for vocal recording? Well, they are pretty much self-explanatory. So with vocals, as with gates, I try not to use gates. Gates are okay for post-production, because gate is like switching on and off, and you really don't want those sort of effects in your mixer unless they are specific. Like for guitars, I personally feel using expanders is much better. Expander is similar to the gate, but instead of opening and closing, they just gently open, gently close, so that the listener doesn't feel the volume going low or coming back. It normally just comes back and then gently goes down, comes back and it goes down. So in that sort of sense, high pass filters for pretty much vocals and everything else other than the kick and the bass guitar, 100 hertz, it's really great because that will clear out all of the low end. Low pass filters, I normally use low pass filter for like hi-hats, drum overheads, maybe some percussions, or something which is like even guitars, solo guitars. If they're too brittle and too bright, you can use the low pass filter to clear it. And the threshold is just the level that you set to get a reasonable amount of gain reduction on compressors. Hope that answered it. Any guidance for bassy vocals? The closer you get, the more bass you're going to get. The further you get out, the less bass you're going to get. So get your singer to stand further back from the microphone. And if that's not possible, then just use high pass filter. Just move the filter up and up the frequency, especially in a digital mixer like yours. You can set the frequency, just keep going up, maybe 120, 140, or even sometimes up to 160 hertz of low pass filter until you sort of start feeling the voice getting thin, and then just move back a little bit, maybe 10 or 20 hertz back a little bit to not lose all of the warmth and the power or the energy of the vocalist, so they don't end up being really thin. So that's one way of doing it. Okay. Right, okay. Thanks, Saim, that I got it for you. Yep, can't say I couldn't get it for months. You just made it so easy for me. Well, glad I helped you out. Yeah, and you just have to experiment. If you've got the mixer, just experiment with it. Record with it. Keep playing around with it so you understand your mixer, understand what every bit of the parameters, what they do, what a high pass filter is, what a low pass filter is, and what results you're getting. Just play around with them. Do some recording and play it back through your mixer. I know the Studio Live, you can play it back through your mixer and just as if it's coming live. So instead of being a live microphone, it can come from your DAW, and then you can play around with all the different settings and see what you are getting and what do they do. And that's how you can learn and understand the concept. And also welcome to FV3 video, and mentions proximity effect. Yes, that's true. Of course, that's how things work. If you want something boomy, you get closer. And if you want something to be less boomy, thinner, then just move back from the microphone. Like, this is a good distance. You don't need to be any closer than this for a dynamic microphone. Condenser microphone, you might get a little bit closer because they won't be as boomy. But for dynamic mics like this one, virtually any dynamic mic, this is a great distance to be at to get really nice sounds. Kalaman says, what is mastering chain during live streaming and maintain LUFS? Well, the only thing that it's not really mastering. I don't know why a lot of people get mastering all so wrong. It's master bus chain is what I would actually call it. Because mastering is a completely different concept. It's about taking 2 or 3 songs, at least 2 songs, or 3 songs in an EP, an album, maybe up to 8 songs, 12 songs, how many songs the album is, And when you master it, you make sure that not only each song it has the best tonal characteristics being represented by the music, by the musicians, by the vocalist, and by the arranger and the production, but also every song tonally matches. So if you have one song, mastering basically means all you're doing is just trying to match your song to another song, another released commercial song, and making it, whether if it's making it loud enough or tonally matching a certain genre of music. So that's what mastering is. And for live streaming, mastering would probably only be, because you can't change everything on the fly because everything is happening live like now. Mastering doesn't really apply. It's a master bus sort of processing or chain, and most likely like now all I have is a limiter on my vocals, so that if I ever get loud, the limiter will stop it so that you don't get a clipped noise, clip audio coming through and piercing in your ear. And with EQ and everything, normally it's whatever you do to the microphone. For live streaming, if you are using a mixing desk for live streaming, then you can just EQ and prepare before, making sure that your microphones do sound right and all clear. And on the mastering bus, all you need maybe a little bit of compression, and limiter is probably the best if it's just vocal. If it's a obviously live band playing, again, you might want to put some compressor and a limiter just so that it doesn't distort the signal that's going out. Okay, I'm going to make it because it's live. Someone's telling me to shut the fuck up. I don't know who it is, what for, and if you don't like the information, Mr. Emmanuel Mac, then you can just go. You don't have to be here. You don't have to listen to me. You don't have to know because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Anyway, let's move on. The next question. What is recommended? Having Melodyne on vocal tracks? Insert or route the vocal track to effects channel, or bus having Melodyne as an insert? I normally use Melodyne if I need to edit the vocals, and normally it's at the moment there's most DAWs these days support the ARA, which is direct access from the DAW track into Melodyne and back. So if you use it as an insert, that means you need to load the audio from the track into Melodyne, edit it, and then it will play back from Melodyne. So if you change your audio track later on, you got to do it again. You got to load it back into Melodyne and pitch correct it or whatever you are trying to do, and gets exported again. But if you use as an ARA mode, then it's all automatic and directly. So all it means is just seamless. Any changes you do on your track will reflect back in Melodyne and out again. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, well, where are we at? In time-wise, we are at the 30-minute mark. I hope I'm answering enough questions. And if you've got more questions, feel free to ask. I may be here for another probably 10-15 minutes, depending, again, as I mentioned, on the questions that I get. Yes, I hope you guys, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope you are subscribed to my channel, because I do have lots of videos up there. I was actually counting the number of videos I've got on my channel since I started. It's about 502 to be exact. So it's a lot of videos there, a lot of information. And that's not counting the live streams that I've done like today. So I hope they are helpful. Yes, and if you are here say hello in the chat, even if you don't have a question, make sure you do ask. Even if you don't have questions, just say hello to me, so I can say hello to you back again. According to YouTube, we have 6 people watching, which is okay, which is good, not bad. A few minutes ago there was 9 people watching, but that's all right. Okay, another question from Saim. Studio One stock plugs with Sapphire are good, or you need third-party plugins too, like Fab Filters and Waves? To be honest, I don't have that many third-party plugins. I have few Waves plugins that I use every now and then, just because I like the tonal characteristics of those plugins, mainly compressors. A lot of the time, I'm just using the stock plugin of Studio One, whether if it's the compressor or the EQ, or any of the other plugins in there, unless I want to add a certain coloration. Having said that, I also use outboard gear. I've got outboard compressors that I use to shape my sound, but you don't have to. It's nothing necessary. The stock plugins, even with zero third-party plugins, you can still get professional results. And it all depends about you learning how to use those plugins. And learning comes from experimenting, understanding what each of the parameters do for each of those plugins. Just spend the time, and that will make it easier for you when it comes to actually doing a real project, whether if it's your own or someone else's. If you already know how to use your tools, it makes it really easy. And that's the important thing, is to learn before doing anything for a client. Because you don't want the client, in my case, a lot of the time I have clients around watching me doing things on the fly. And if I go, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? That's not going to look good. I learn how to use my tools before any of the clients coming in. So any useful tips for lo-fi music track? Yes, download Isotope's free plugin called Vinyl. That's it. You create the music, add vinyl as the effect, whether you vinyl record scratch or lo-fi sounds. You can always use a filter or even the built-in equalizer, Pro EQ. You can automate the low-pass filter to move up and down at randomly, however musically you like, and then that will create that lo-fi effect. So, yeah, I hope that helps you out. We also have Sai. Happy New Year, Vache. Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well, and welcome to 2021. Kalamach, another question. The Soundcraft Notepad 12 FX having live mixing as well as 4 XLR audio interface, but gain is very low. Is it better for recording? I haven't really found it gain to be very low because I do have one here. I'm sure this is what you are talking about. Okay, there we go. It sits right here. And I use that occasionally, and that's why it's sitting right next to me. I haven't found them to be that low. They are a little bit lower than some of my other audio interfaces, but I don't feel that they are low. They're clean, usable, Yeah, it depends what microphone you are connecting and how much gain you are expecting from them. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't personally found the 4XLR inputs any less sensitive. Maybe by a tiny bit, maybe about 6 dB at the top end. You might, instead of normally having it, let's say, so if I want to connect the dynamic microphone, let me see if I can get it close enough. At the moment, that's low. Instead of normally having about midway there, I think it's about here. Because once I go all the way here, that's too loud, and it's always it gets pretty noisy as well. But normally, any other mixer, you would have it around here. I'm trying to get it, but in this mixer's case, I normally have it about here. That's for dynamic microphones, of course. Condenser is probably less. They're more sensitive, so you don't have to turn that loud on them. I hope that answers that question. Good advice. FV3 video says, good advice to use the stock plugins. Better to get familiar with them before you go outside the box. Of course, yes, definitely. As I mentioned, most of the mixing that I do, everything, stock plugins. I don't have many plugins, third-party plugins that I use on my mixes. So yeah, I'm happy with it. But some plugins do help because they may do things differently that may speed up the process, where you might have to do in 2 steps with the stock plugins. But if you got the time, if you got the know-how, you can save yourself money because you can do everything that you can for mixing purposes with the stock plugin. Of course, having said that, there are plugins out there that will do specific functions for the audio, whether for musical arrangement or whether it's for editing or special effects, that you won't be able to do it unless you've got that third-party plugin. Let me come up with an example. I can't really think of an example at the moment, but there are situations where you have to evaluate whether you can achieve what you want to achieve with the stock plugin. If not, you might have to get a third-party plugin that will do it for you. And there are a lot of occasions that you may need this, but again, you need to understand and learn all your basic tools before you venture out. Sam says, thanks a lot, bro. You shared a lot of useful information. Thank you. I'm glad to help. That's the whole idea of my channel. And thanks from Kalamachan as well. And Saim says, how do you clean up muddy mix? Soap. I just wash it down with soap. It all depends what muddy means, because a lot of the time that if you remove a lot of the frequencies that are marked as muddy, you lose the energy and the power of that audio source. So you need to really be careful how you remove the mud. You more of the time, from experience, that you will get muddy sound effect where 2 different instruments are combined and using the same frequency, so they multiply. So it's a matter of learning and understanding which instruments of your song mix are combining together, especially anywhere between, let's say, 200 hertz to 600 hertz region. which ones are mixing together, and then matter of just removing either one of them. With an EQ, you can carve those out. So if you've got, let's say, low frequency, like the snare, or some other low frequency sounds or synthesizers, you got to decide which instrument takes the priority, and then carve out the other one to make room for the one that you want to stand out. And that 90% of the time will clear out all of the muddiness in your songs. You just have to listen, mute some of those tracks that are around those frequencies, and then see which one sounds the best, and then the others just carve them out with an EQ. Give that space to the important instrument. And at the same time, you can, of course, move them as well, so that with automation, you can bring those in and out as one instrument, let's say, at the verse, one instrument might be the one that you want at the front, and at the chorus, you want the other one at the front. So you can use automation to move them around as well. So I hope that cleans up your muddy mix. That's how I personally do it. Just matter of spending, 10, 15 minutes listening, and then muting, soloing, and finding out which ones. Any useful frequency charts or templates available as industry standards for particular genres? Not really, no. There are charts around. If you Google, you'll get charts of what frequency ranges each instrument typically covers, and that should give you some idea, like what the range of the piano is, what the vocal is, what the drums are, the snares, trombones, trumpets, strings, all of those things, what frequency they cover. There's plenty out there, and that should probably be your starting point. But really, there is no chart to say how what levels they are. I mean, Isotope has come up with a plugin. It's not a plugin. It's an app where I think it's called Balancer, where they've sampled so many songs from different genres and different eras and create this graph that pretty much supposed to help you, so that when you play your song, you try to match to those graph. But I don't really believe in that, because in the end, you really need to listen and judge it yourself. I mean, it will probably help you a little bit, but not necessarily. So watch out for those sort of things. Anything that is set standard, you really need to watch out for. One way to do it is be able to listen to a song that you like, and you want your song with very similar genre to match it. That's what references are. So I normally get one or two songs, no more, just two songs, and then listen to it, and then you can see the graph. You can use in Studio One Pro EQ or even Vaxengo Span to see what the frequency graph is, and then you try to match your song to that graph. But to generalize as overall, I don't believe it's possible. And even if there is something out there, it cannot be true, because there's so many differences. As I said, get two songs as references that you are trying to match your song to, possibly with the same genre of music, and match it to that graph. And that's, I think, what you're going to achieve the best. Okay, we have a few more people joined in as I was talking. Shahnawaz, I think. I hope I'm spelling the names right. How do you get a good mix in the box? I was just talking about that. Reference to other good commercial release songs that match the same genre of music that you want your songs to match. Listen to them, compare them. You can use Baxengo Span, or even you can use Melda Production M Analysis plugin. It's free, of course, same as Baxengo, and you can play your commercial music, watch the graph, see how much bass, what frequencies there are going up and down, and mids and the highs, and then try to match your song to that. And then do again for the second song that matches and average them and find out that way. Personally, I don't go any more than 2 reference songs. Otherwise, it becomes too much, too complicated, waste of time. So I hope that answers that question about in the box mixing. Is Wavelab good? That's from Steinberg. I do have Wavelab Lite. I think that's they mainly use for mastering. The reason they use for mastering because it's got a lot of tools, a lot of analysis tools in there as well to tell you what's happening at the different frequencies, the dynamics and everything else, and also has something that a lot of mastering software don't include. I'm pretty sure Wavelab does it, is automation. So you are able to automate your stereo track. So you can change dynamics throughout the song to add a bit more liveliness into the song. But yeah, I don't have the pro version. I only have the light one, and I just use it occasionally, just looked at it because it came free. So I hope that answers that question. Atish, yeah? Yeah, sorry if I misspell your name again. Also, hello to Ahmad. Says, would you kindly recommend a free plugin to meter final track to load to YouTube and SoundCloud, for example? The best one I can recommend, which is free, and it's actually a free set of plugins, and I mentioned it a couple minutes ago, is Melda Production Free Bundle. And you can use M Loudness Meter. I think it's called M Loudness Meter, one of the free plugins, and it will tell you everything about the levels: peak, true peak, RMS, short, long, as well as LUFS and all of that. It will tell you everything. It's free. That's the one I use a lot of the time when I'm mixing to make sure that I'm in the ballpark of the levels. So when I send my song to mastering, because if I mix a song I don't master, I either master already mixed song, or if I mix a song and send to a colleague of mine to master it, that way we get different perspectives. So again, I use that meter from Melda Production to make sure I'm in the ballpark mixing levels, and then it's good enough and enough space and headroom for the mastering engineer to master it for me. Hope that answers that question. Kalamach says, how useful MS EQ for stereo widening and lead vocals up front? Mid-side EQ. I don't use much mid-side EQs because they can complicate things because of phase differences and things, especially with vocals. I like my vocal to be right in the middle. The effects of vocals, like maybe delays or reverbs, you can make it wide, but as far as vocals, I like it in the middle. So less widening of vocals, it will be right more up front. Yeah, that's how I do it. Saim says, Billie Eilish vocals, how are they layered? They're probably multiple layered. I really don't know that details. I haven't seen the multi-track, so I can't answer that one. Okay, and one last question, I think, from Shahnawaz. I don't have any outboard gear but a sound card. M Audio C600. Can I make a good sounding record? And I have a free plugin and stock plugins. Absolutely. If anybody tells you that you need outboard gear to make professional recording and audio, just ignore it. Don't listen to them. You don't need any outboard gear. If you have audio interface like the M Audio C600, I'm not familiar with it, but if it's got microphone input, line input, USB connection to your computer, then that's all you really need. You can use stock plugins of your DAW or even free plugins, and you can get professional result. And professional result does not depend on outboard gear or even plugins. It depends on you. You got to learn how to use those plugins and understand what they do, how they do it, how to make them, how to use them. And once you learn all of that, only then you can move to the next level of getting a plugin that's going to help you speed up the process. So once you learn all of the concepts of how compressors work, how EQs work, gates work, and reverb, delay, and so on, as stock plugin in your DAW, every other plugin that you expand to afterwards will make it really, really easy to use and learn. A lot of the time, I hardly read any manual of if I have to buy any plugin, which I haven't bought for a long time. But in the last 6 months, I might have bought maybe 1 or 2 plugin, which were like $9 or $10 on special. But that's about it, because I've got all the tools that I need. So you really don't need much outboard gear, if any, other than your audio interface. Good microphone, reasonable audio interface, and learn how to use your plugins in your DAW. Learn how to use your DAW, of course. That's all you need. Okay, it says, thank you for your valuable time answering question and sharing your experience. You are most welcome. And in case people didn't know, I have been, to give you a very quick background before I sign off for today, I have been doing music recording since 1988, but officially maybe 89. In 1989 is when I actually bought my first 4-track mixer, 4-track multi-track recorder, and actually recorded an album 6 months later for a friend of mine, a musician's band that we recorded and released a cassette back then. So that's how far my background goes. So it's not something that I've learned in the last couple of years. So I've done lots of live shows for live bands, and then which I don't do at the moment. Then I was part of a band playing music and recording as well. And then now I just do recording, mixing, and mastering for local clients as well as overseas clients. Hope that gives you some idea where I come from, where my information comes from. Just a few comments. I record clean guitar and then use guitar rig, but the problem is the guitar, it's too high. Should I turn down the output of the guitar rig? Yeah, you have to do gain staging. You got to make sure that you are not recording too loud. If it's clean, I guess it's good. Yeah, you need to do gain staging, because as soon as you apply the guitar rig effects, distortion, obviously it's getting louder. So you just need to turn the output of the guitar rig plugin down, so it doesn't distort the rest of the audio stream. How is your mixing song plugin workflow? That's a very general question, Kalamanch. I'm not sure if I can answer, because each instrument has its own plugin. I don't really have a template as such. I listen to each instrument and then decide what needs to be fixing and fix it. A lot of the times, especially if I get good recorded, well recorded multi-tracks from overseas or locally, that's been recorded by a friend of mine in his own studio. They were recorded. Sometimes I don't even have to apply any plugins. Just a little bit of compression to taste, and maybe an EQ to carve space, as I mentioned earlier, to carve space for other instruments, and that's about it. That's hardly any plugins. If I'm adding any more than 3 or 4 plugins for a track, something's wrong. With the obviously recorded track, or I'm trying to achieve something different, a special effect. That's the only time. Otherwise, it just I add as I listen. I have a listen blank. Let's say I've got just recorded. I had a session in here, and the guys recorded the track. I sit down the next day. I go through. I listen and try to identify what the problems are. Kick is too boomy, bass is too loud, all of that. Do gain staging, adjust it, and then go through one at a time. You go, oh yeah, the bass is a bit, I need a bit more fuzz, I need a bit more compression, it's too dynamic. I can hear the fingers whether I want it or not, and just put a plug in there to fix that. And then just one at a time. I work one at a time and move on that way. Okay, Sam says, already subscribed to your channel. Thank you so much. Most welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, last question, and I will answer this. What brand was my 4-track? It was Yamaha MT3X, and believe it or not, it's sitting. See that black bag right behind me there? It's still there. If you want to actually see it, let me know in the comment about about here, and I will bring it out and finish off today's session with that. Okay, difference between gain staging and static mix. Yeah, the first thing I do is gain stage, because that's really, really important to make sure that I've got all the levels right. And then I do static mix. That's the step. Gain staging, making sure that I've got the right levels. Nothing is too loud, nothing is too soft, so that when I am doing my static mix, most of my faders are hovering around the 0 dB. And I can turn it down if I need to. If I need to turn it up, I can turn it up. But that's the stage that I work with. Gain staging, then static mix. And then come in, plug in if they need be. Okay, well, I guess that's about it. Okay, I'll bring it for you, and we'll finish off with that. Okay, this is the moment. This is how I started. This is the Yamaha, this way, the Yamaha MT3X. It's got 6 channels, cassette, obviously, 4-track mixer. And with this mixer, and still works, obviously, and I kept it in a very good condition because I had to save up pretty much 2 months worth of wages back in 1988, 87, 88 when I purchased this. And I was only working, young working, and I had to save 2 months of pay to purchase this. It cost me a fortune. But with this, I made several albums for people on cassettes. Obviously, back then it was cassettes. And then CDs came up, but by then I already had a computer to work with. So there it is. This is how it all started. Yes, and that is now worth a fortune. Believe it or not, it's actually now, if I sell it, I sell more money, more than what I actually paid for back then, but it's not for sale. It reminds me of where I started and how I started, and where I am now. So I believe a couple of years ago, when I actually built my studio here, I invited the band, my colleagues, friends, who recorded our first album on that multi-track recorder. And there is a video on my channel somewhere with the guys coming back together in the studio. So if you care to watch it, search for it. It's somewhere around there. And then, yeah, it's 25th anniversary. So 25 years later, we got back together. And we had great time as well, remembering all those nights working over and over again, recording some 8 songs on that multi-track. So yeah, and it was released. 1,000 copies of the cassette was printed and sold. So anyway, that's it for today. Thanks for everyone for joining in. I hope I was helpful. I did answer all of your questions, and I hope to do this more often. I'm planning to do it on a weekly basis, same time. For me, it's a Sunday 6 p.m. So Sunday night 6 p.m. So it could be a different time for you, but there will be a reminder on YouTube, and I will plan it ahead. Put a reminder, so you can put a reminder on your YouTube channel, and it will remind you when I go live. And I hope you can join me again. And thank you for everybody who's been here, who's been watching. And if you have any topics you'd like me to cover after this video, you can comment in the comment section after I finish my live stream, and I will read those through, and I'll try to make videos for you guys to help you out. Till next time, again, thanks for everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2021 for everyone. I hope 2021 is much, much better than the year 2020. And we make a lot more music and have fun doing them. Till next time, as always, thanks for watching and have a great time making music. Cheerio, guys. Goodbye.